Hey everybody, thanks for joining me again. So we are going to take a look at Google Meets again. Seemed like that was a popular one, but there have been a couple questions that have come up again and again, so I want to make sure that we address those so that everyone's really comfortable as we head into remote learning. So we're going to head back to our calendar and we're going to address a couple things. We're going to take a look at the mute button again. We're going to talk about our internet connection. We're going to look at closed captioning. We're going to take a look at what we can do to make sure that students aren't re-entering our Google Meet after the class is over. And then we're also going to take a look at presentation mode and what we can do to try to make sure students aren't hijacking our lesson. Unfortunately, there's not the greatest solution. And then finally, I also want to give you a few more fun tips in order to make sure the lesson is running smoothly for you. So let's head over to our calendar. So remember, we've made our calendar invite and we are going to click on it because that is where our link is. One fun little tidbit I'm going to teach you before we head in. So remember, when you are in your thing, there are the links, right? So one thing you can do is if you copy that link right here, you could either email this link to any of your students that you want to do, or you also could create it as an assignment in your Google Classroom. So that's kind of cool. So you could create an assignment, you could put it as a question, you could make it as a material. So right here you can add it, and you can add it as a link right here. Add as link, and it will set it up right there as a class video, and it'll add it to your class for all of your students, and it'll put it right there, and all your students would get a notification that way. So that's a really cool trick right there for you. So let's just get started though. So we're going to head on in. Now remember, when you are setting this up, one thing you want to do, because you don't want to have all that feedback, is remind all your students to enter in the class muted. So they'll But for our sake, we're going to not be muted, and of course your students will forget. So once you're in for that muted button, so you'll go over that with them again at the bottom, they can mute themselves right down here. If they don't do that, you're going to come up here, and you will find all of your students down here, and you'll be able to mute them. Now, unfortunately, Google has not come up with a way to keep them muted. They are able to unmute themselves, and so this is where classroom management is going to have to come in. Unfortunately, yes, we still are going to have to do classroom management even in remote learning, so I would set up those clear expectations with your students from the get-go and letting them know that yes, they have to stay muted until they are told that they are able to unmute themselves to participate, and that is just to make sure that your class is running smoothly. And if they do not abide by those rules, then when you are up here, there are those three options just like there is down here, and you'll see this leave call. You'll be able to help make them leave the call. So you'll be able to actually oust them from the class. If you do that, I would then warrant a phone call home and let them know that they were not able to participate in today's class, and give them an incomplete for the day. Another really important tool, if students are hard of hearing or they're having a hard time understanding what you're saying or getting used to the remote learning, a really great tool that I recommend doing, and maybe it's a good practice at all times, just so students can really follow along, or if they miss something, they can go back and rehear it or reread it, is turning on the closed captioning. And it does a really good job. So if you notice at the bottom, it's pretty accurate as to what I'm saying, and it does it real time right there for you. It's not 100%, but it's pretty decent about writing down everything that you are saying. So it will do everything that you are presenting, as well as if you allow students to participate, it will also record all of their comments as well. So that's really great, and you'll be able to have a transcript of that at the end. So a really cool function as well. I know that one thing that came up was the internet connection. So I know that things can be spotty for either students or for you when you are at home. We can't always be reliable on our internet. One thing that takes a lot of bandwidth is actually the video feed. So when you are presenting, if you're presenting a PowerPoint or a document or things like that, I highly recommend turning your own video off. That way the internet is not having to try to have such a large bandwidth of showing both your video as well as whatever you're trying to present. That'll help out with that internet connection. Recommend that to your students as well. If your students are really having a hard time with internet, I recommend them not using their computer and calling in, because that takes the least amount of bandwidth, so at least they can hear what's going on. So that are some tricks to be able to be in the class and help with that internet connectivity. The other thing that people were talking about is once the class is over, that you leave and find out that students have then come back into the Meet afterwards. And I know for CPS that is a big no-no, that students are not supposed to be in the Google Meet without an adult supervision. So CPS or Google has not figured out a way to do that yet. I know that they are working on it, that eventually you might see when you create the Google Meet, it'll say, do you want to make a nickname? And if you do the nickname, that is supposed to be a way to prevent students from coming in afterwards, as long as you're the very last person in the Google Meet, and then you end the call at the very end. But that has not happened quite yet. It's supposed to be in the next week or two. Until then, the only way I figured out how to make sure that the Meet has completely ended and ceased is that once you have got everybody out of the Meet and you're the last one out, then you actually go to your calendar and you delete the entire link. So that's the only way I know that it's completely gone. So we'll do that at the very end to show how to do that. And then the other major concern is the present mode. So remember, when you come down here, you're able to click present now, and you click and you say your entire screen, and you click and you share. So now we're in present mode. And that sometimes people are saying that then students also figure out that they also have the present mode, and that they'll click it and they'll oust you from your presentation. There's been a lot of chatter on Google about this, asking Google for help to be able to prevent students from being able to do this. Unfortunately, Google has not responded yet to this. So this is something where we're at an impasse. Unfortunately, we are not able to restrict students from being able to kick us out of our own presentation. So this is where we're going to have to pull the classroom management card again, set those expectations, and if students can't follow suit after we warn them, again, we're going to have to then, unfortunately, use that warning system again. So if they're not going to be able to do it, we're going to have to then use the end call, and we're going to have to end them from the class and talk to the parents about what it means to be a part of a remote learning community. So until Google is able to come up with a compromise for educators, that is what we are stuck with, unfortunately. But there are some really good ways to help manage that system. So there are two add-ons I want to talk about that I think will help you with that. One is a Chrome add-on, which is called the Grid. So I'm going to add them both to the comments below, so you'll be able to get the link and add that add-on real quickly. So if you notice at the top here, I have something that's a little bit different. So prior to this, I showed you that when you click these three dots, you could change the layout. But the layouts are kind of limited. You couldn't see every student in your class. Now, if you get this add-on, the Grid, you'll now see that there's different options. You can see everybody in your entire class. So you'll say, show the participants that are all here. So you click on this, and if you click highlight the speakers, you'll kind of see, you'll see like this green bar that goes around it, so you'll know who's actually speaking, so it kind of stands out to you. You can also include yourself in the grid, things like that. And so it kind of does like the Brady Bunch style, where every single person in the meeting is going to be up on the board, which is really nice, because then you can see everyone that's there. You can kind of pay attention to who's talking. You can kind of take attendance, all of that good stuff, and kind of do that facial check-in, which is really nice to kind of see everybody and see what's going on. So that's really nice. The other really cool one is called the Nod. And so you'll notice that I have that up in the left-hand corner. So since everybody is muted, this is a great way for them to still participate but not have all that feedback. So you can ask questions, you can see how they're feeling, things like that, and then they would just use one of these emojis. So you could say, give me a thumbs up if you understand. And the kids could give a thumb up, and you'll see their name right here and the thumbs up. After someone presented, they could all clap, so they could give each other some positive reinforcement. Or if they thought something was confusing, they could do that. So you can kind of know and judge how they're doing and things like that as you're going through. Or if someone had a question, they can raise their hand. And then you would know that there was a question, and you could say, okay, Katie, you can unmute your mic and you can ask your question so that there's a little bit of organization to what's going on. So that's a really great way for you to kind of keep things organized and be able to manage your class while you're doing remote learning. So those are two really great add-ons. So I hope that this is helpful. I hope it answered some of those questions and kind of helped with that troubleshooting. So at the very end of your meeting, once everybody's gone, you're going to hang up your call, and then we're going to go and delete the entire invite so that no one else can enter in afterwards. So I'm going to hang up. You will not be able to see me anymore, but we'll delete that invite, and I will see you next time. So let's quick do that. Hang up. And then we'll just head back to our calendar right here. And to delete it, all you do is you click on here and you click delete, and the whole thing is gone. So now there is no more link. The students can't get back in. So I hope that was helpful. If it was, I hope you comment, I hope you like, and I hope you subscribe. And also please share with anyone you think it would be helpful, as we want this transition to be as smooth as possible. See you next time. Thanks so much.